Mrs. Carol Latimer Babcock joined Williams Memorial as a young woman after moving to Augusta and marrying her husband, Mr. Foodie Babcock. Both were active members of Williams. Mrs. Babcock participated in Sunday school, she sang in the choir, and was a member of the Board of Trustees. She enjoyed singing so much that she participated in the Augusta Chorale. She was an original member of this group, which was founded by her husband in 1983, along with Adrian Walker, a member of Williams. Mrs. Babcock was a member of many organizations in the Augusta community and was a first grade teacher for 37 years in the Richmond County school system. Before she retired, she served as a reading resources teacher. Mrs. Babcock had developed such a strong reputation as a first grade teacher that many parents specifically requested her to teach their children. Mrs. Babcock was passionate about young people having a strong reading foundation. So upon retiring, she volunteered and devoted her time to teaching young people to read. Mrs. Hertha Latimer Blunt, sister of Mrs. Carol Babcock, was a devoted member of Williams, along with her husband, the late Mr. Robert E. Blunt, and their family and children. Her son and daughter-in-law, Dr. and Mrs. Latimer Blunt, are current members of Williams. Mrs. Blunt loved the Williams Memorial Church family and served as a Sunday school teacher, a missionary, and was on the stewardess board. She was active with the Shiloh Community Center and other organizations in the Augusta area. Mrs. Blunt loved quilting. She was passionate about science, and as a science teacher in the Richmond County school system, she influenced and inspired many young people to start careers in the science field. In 1991, as a member of Delta Sigma Theta, she and her local sorority chapter established the area's first Black History Museum, the Lucy Craft Laney Museum of Black History. Through her love of nature, she was influential in the development of the period garden at the museum that contains plants and flowers that would have been popular during the life of Miss Lee. Mrs. Estella Lewis was the mother of two current and active members of Williams Memorial, Jeriah Lewis and Frank Lewis. Growing up in the church, they witnessed their mother practice her faith and dedication to the church through her participation in organizations such as the Estella Jackson Women's Missionary Society, Stewardess Board Number 2, and the A.S. Bronner Gospel Choir. Mrs. Lewis represented Williams Memorial on the 6th Episcopal District and served multiple times as a delegate to the General Conference in the CME Church. Mrs. Lewis was active in the Richmond County school system, serving as PTA president for several years. Mrs. Lewis was also active during the civil rights movement. Several committees were formed and met at her house and her living room where she resided in Sunset Homes. Mrs. Lewis was known for her exceptional cooking and baking skills. Her cakes and pies were always in demand at church functions.